Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Replenish Earth series, where we explore climate action through innovative and exciting speakers. Today marks the final day of London Climate Action Week, where we drive the national and international debate on climate policy and prioritizing the green recovery. I'm Tia Kansara, and we'll be exploring today what do poverty, gender inequality, and energy access have in common. Join us live with Sujatha Ramani to find out more. Sujatha is a seasoned business professional with 28 years of combined experience in the corporate and social sector. She's passionate about women empowerment, poverty alleviation, and clean energy. She's committed to bringing in business rigor to solve massive social problems, keeping women as central agents of change. She's focused on bringing in long-term impact in underserved communities and enabling social and economic progress. Great to have you on Replenish Earth Live, Sujatha. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be joining this fantastic forum, and I really consider myself lucky to be working on the cusp of three vectors of poverty, gender inequality, and clean energy. Yeah,
yes,
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. So one of the things that we've been talking about leading up to our live session today is, what was your story? Like, how did you begin? This is such incredible work that you're doing, and would love for our listeners to hear your story and how you got there. And to our listeners as well, you have the opportunity to send in your comments and your suggestions, your questions into the actual chat. So please do. Over to you, Sujatha.
Thank you. So like I mentioned, I've been working in the IT industry for a couple of decades. And of course, then the entrepreneurship bug bit me, and I tried my own two ideas in entrepreneurship, and have always been trying to focus on how we can include women and into the workforce in the teams that I worked in, and in my startup ideas as well. And when my startup idea was all about aggregating paying guest accommodations, I was drawn into an organization that was focused on job creation. And that's how I joined the social sector. So it's been about 4 years now that I've spent my time in the social sector. And I keep kicking myself to say, why did I not get in here before? Here we are dealing with very, very large problems. And we have very little resources and people that are focused on the social side of the business. And it gives me immense happiness, and I'm full of gratitude for the fact that I'm on this journey with Pollinate, where we beautifully bring women from the most underprivileged communities to be able to pull themselves out of poverty by being agents of change and distributing clean energy products into the same community. And this beautiful business model is so transformational in giving the empowerment to the woman, at the same time creating a greener planet for themselves and for us.
I think one of our challenges has been, how do we get this conversation going? How do we get the experiences going? How do we understand the culture well enough for us to support wherever people are, especially women? And I think one of the experiences that I think both of us have had is, what does it mean to be an Indian woman today? I think the larger question at the core of the work that both of us actually are doing is, what does it mean to be a woman today? And what opportunities are there for women to take on their own economic recovery, if that is the case, or to take on a more creative manner to really share the road ahead, especially when it, in local communities and rural environments, women play such a key and central role in the positioning of the community. And yet, there is almost like this sort of, that is the ideal, that women play an even bigger role, but somehow it appears that there is a process of stepping into that role. So, maybe you can share some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in fact, just to address that piece, I'll start off with a small story in my own life, and then I'll jump to the work that I'm doing. And, when I had just finished school, I got admission into BITS Pilani, which is way up in the north, and I come from way down from the south. And my family was very skeptical to send me that far out, in spite of many women in my family being highly educated and were in the workforce 50 years ago, and I'm talking of my grand aunts and so on. But there was still a small limitation on us going very far away from the family to do anything that we had to do. And from that point to now where we all have come is a long journey. But many from the different strata of the society do not have those opportunities, do not have those things coming by their way. And the job that I am doing right now is so transformational to the last mile, most marginalized women who are completely devoid of opportunities. To explain this in detail, I'd like to take you through a very small presentation here. I'd like to start sharing my screen. If you can just help me pull that up, and then we can go ahead. Are we on screen? Is everyone able to see the deck that is on screen? Hello? I think I'm frozen. I can't see much at the other end.
I'm so sorry about that. I kind of like jumped the internet waves for a second there.
Are we back?
Yes, I feel like we are. Just to double check, is everything okay?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Great.
Everything okay? Yes. Great. So Pollinate works with most marginalized women from the urban cities. And if you take a look at any of the large growing cities in India, there is always this dark city within the urban city, which are people living in these kind of tents with absolutely no access to anything essential. And let's take an example of Lakshmi, who is about 33 years old, who's traveled about 100 miles from a remote village into Bangalore in search of livelihood. And all she earns is less than about $1.9 a day. 50 people that migrate from rural to urban India every 60 seconds. That's the magnitude at which this problem is growing. Sorry?
That's incredible. That's like a minute.
Tell me. And this is why I feel that these problems are of such high magnitude that needs the attention and the resource and the involvement of as many people as they can join this journey to help people like Lakshmi. Who is Lakshmi for us? She is a woman living in the urban slum with very little access to anything on the grid like water, electricity, sanitation, and very little knowledge about being able to handle digital products. We can at the max use a phone, a button phone, and has limited access and ability to handle a smartphone. And she's not provided any opportunity to lead her life in the way she wants to lead. But what she does have is a great ambition to pull herself out of poverty and give a better future for her children. And that drive and that fire in the belly is what we look out for when we identify women from these communities. Now let's talk energy. India sees about 700,000 premature deaths every year because of the traditional cooking energy sources that we use. And Lakshmi typically even uses plastic that she finds very freely available around her, that she picks around from her neighborhood, to cook. And we all know how carcinogenous it is to burn plastic. And when it comes to sunset, she starts lighting a kerosene lamp, which is completely toxic with the fumes that it emits for the couple of hours that they are able to live inside that blue tent. And then with great difficulty, when they are not able to bear it anymore, they shut off the lamps and go to sleep. How do we grant access to clean energy and help create a greener planet, not just to Lakshmi, but her fraternity of people that live in those tents and her neighbors? This is where Pollinate's business model comes in. A woman that is identified with an ambition to pull herself out of poverty and wants to give a better future for her children is identified and given skill development by Pollinate by providing her with access to learning content of influencing, communication, and product demonstration skills that will help her sell these products into her neighborhood. What are these products? Bingo. These are products that help improve her living conditions by eliminating the kerosene lamp and having access to solar light, eliminating burning all those traditional forms of methods of cooking, and providing her with solar cooking products, and providing her with solar fans, which will keep the mosquitoes and dengue and chicken agent, and builds her business. The second is she comes with a very specific goal of saying, I want to educate myself, or I would want to educate my children. And once that's over, it's an exit. Or she says, I have a loan that I want to repay, or I want to build a house back in my village. And that's how she exits from this path. Or the most beautiful exit is the fact that she gets absorbed in the real economy by way of getting a job in the local supermarket and becoming a sales supervisor of sorts there. That's the transformation that she sees for herself from where she came as a woman with no opportunity to how she transforms herself. This is a very self confident, empowered Lakshmi that you see. What happens as an impact with all that Pollinate does is we are able to reach about 660,000 people till date. We've trained over 760 women till date. And all of this has helped them save over $23 million because of the fact that they now stop buying kerosene and stop buying the other firewood that is required to cook. And it's beautifully helped us save about 60,000 tons of carbon emission. We don't stop here. Where are we headed? In the next 5 years, we want to work with 10,000 women across the six locations that we work today in India and 2 locations in Nepal. And we want to sell over 1.5 million clean energy products through these 10,000 women into those communities. And we would possibly expand from the 8 that we are in today to about 15 more cities in both these countries. And we'd like to impact about 10 million people living in these communities who do not have access to anything clean and anything safe, and transform them and give them a better living condition by 2025. Join me if you want to be a part of this journey. Write to us. We'll be more than happy to work together and see how we can make a better planet, not just for us, but for them as they sell these products and create a better planet for us. I'm now open to questions if they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, each one of those slides, we can literally go into so much detail and information about what's happening, not only in India at the moment, but for these women in rural environments who have so much opportunity through the work that you're doing. And as Pavijit mentioned in the comments, like Pollinate makes so much sense as the name of your organization because of the work that you're doing. And as everyone in the audience is really excited to hear about some of the achievements that you've had, like super kudos to you and congratulations for doing that. I think part and parcel of the work that you're doing is to encourage people to believe and know that it is possible, and that it is possible to do it with the tools that you've been using. So can you tell us a little bit about what kind of, when you talk about the journey that these women are going on, what kind of journeys do you feel are appropriate to sort of support them and coach them throughout this process? Because that's what we're doing. We're meeting these people where they are. And then as we meet them as where they are with the challenges that they're experiencing, there is an entirely different sort of like journey as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, I'd like to also share our experience through the pandemic, right? When the pandemic hit India in March and the country went on lockdown, we knew it came to India in the early part of the year, and we immediately started providing health and hygiene training to our women. We kind of mixed the rest of the other interventions that were provided to them on entrepreneurship skills. And we quickly realized how vulnerable these communities will be. And if it were to have the virus spread in one of these communities, I mean, it's unimaginable catastrophe that can happen. It could quickly spread so rapidly. If you remember the first slide where I showed the proximity of each of these tents, not even a feet apart from each other. And we kind of quickly pivoted to include health, hygiene, hand wash, social distancing content in multiple languages created by our own team. All the congratulations that you spoke about completely goes back to the team that worked so hard through those months to create instant videos in multiple languages. And we mandated that each one of our women entrepreneurs to ensure that they spread that to every member in the community. And I have two wonderful stories based on that. And in the month of May and June, when a lot of NGOs were partnering with us to take food and groceries into these communities, there was one such organization that went along with the TV crew in Kanpur, and they were all coming together, jumping off a van, and the TV crew was all going around and setting things. Our women entrepreneur who saw that said, you guys are not socially distancing yourself. I'm not going to come and let my community people take anything from you. The TV crew just jaws fell apart. They said, oh wow, we completely forgot about doing that. And here is a woman from the community telling us what to do. And that made us thank the fact that we are doing this job, as people working for Pollinate. It was so gratifying to see that she has internalized all of it and she has spread that message into the community and was able to go and stand up in front of people that are there giving free goodies to her and tell them to be a meter apart. And she said, I will have my community members come all standing a meter apart to take these groceries from you. It was extremely gratifying to hear that. And a second example, which happened in Nepal, was a woman was observing a family that was welcoming a member that had come in after having traveled abroad. She quickly walked up to them and said, if this person has traveled somewhere out and is coming in, it's important to quarantine this person for 2 weeks. The family had heard about it, but out of sheer love and affection, they were just welcoming this person, not realizing that they have to stay away and quarantine that person. So the family quarantined this person and they thanked our Suryamukhi and said, thanks for reminding it. These are extremely important stories to state very important message to say, if a woman is given the responsibility of carrying a message that is of good health, there is no need to worry that she will not follow it or not communicate it or not let her people know and make them practice and follow those instructions. It's such a wonderful proof that they can be excellent leaders of change if they are empowered, if they are provided with the right content at the right time. An amazing story that I'm very happy to share with this audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
one of the, the key things, the quick questions that came up was, what is a Suryamukhi? Because I know that you've mentioned it just now. I'd love to, share
that's
some.
Right. I should have said that, and I always get carried away. It's a wonderful name. The Suryamukhi is the name of all the women entrepreneurs that we work with, and as a translation, it's the sunflower, the face of the sunflower or the flower sunflower, and it's so positive, full of hope and full of what one can achieve. So all the women entrepreneurs that we work with, we call them Suryamukhis, both in India and Nepal, and we're extremely proud of all of our Suryamukhis. So as I was saying, these are examples of how when a woman is empowered, she's able to take that position that is not granted to her, and that opportunity is not available to her. And when I spoke of my example, and I want to translate that example to these women, when these women join our program, we don't have any filters, right? Now, these are women from rural India who were not given proper education. They were sent to school until a predetermined time and they were of marriageable age, and then they are quickly married off. So most of them marry very early in their teens and are completely devoid of opportunity. So when they join our program, all that we see is if she has the willpower and the determination to pull herself and her family out of poverty by becoming an entrepreneur. And I believe that the skill that we provide her is something that's going to last her life, even if she moves back to her village and if she again wants to earn extra income for any other needs that arises in the family. This skill is deep embedded in her and she can always turn to it if there is a situation that she has to stop being an entrepreneur at any point in time. And once an entrepreneur, I think, you always want to do something, and that thing is always a long lasting impact that it leaves with that person. And like I said, we do not look for any educational qualifications. We do not look for any read and write capabilities. All that we need her to be is focused and determined and committed to this program. So
Wow.
that's
I
something
mean,
all that we see.
Surya McKeith, well done. Congratulations for really bringing such a beautiful image into our minds when it comes to entrepreneurship, because we're sort of, we're as entrepreneurs and as citizens of the world and citizens of our communities and cities, we're sort of eager to do something. And we've just had a comment that came in through the audience. I'm just going to put it on the screen, which is, how can we as citizens contribute to the marginalized community around us? And what's fascinating with what you just said is that there are no barriers to entry. There isn't a caste or a language or a culture or a location that can stop you from joining your program, which I think is a massive feat as is. However, how can we others also support?
Yeah, wonderful. Tia, you and your organization are doing a phenomenal job of sensitizing people on clean energy, right? And we're talking of this convergence of clean energy, women, and eradicating poverty. I think if each one of us are, first of all, aware of what is the magnitude of this problem, and in our own ways start being sensitive to the people around us, and if we do observe communities or women, instead of giving them anything free, ask them if they would like to be a part of a program that will give them long lasting, lifelong impact. An easier way is to get in touch with us, and we will see how we can utilize the time, energy, and resource they want to give us. As a program, Pollinate also has fellowships. We run 3 types of fellowships. The first one is including students. We work well with very young, bright minds from colleges who want to have an immersive experience in social enterprise. They can spend a couple of weeks with us on a program where they work on a problem that they will take back to the community, work with them, and find possible solutions. And that's integrated into our strategy. And at the next level, we work with executives and organizations who want to go through leadership enhancements, and that is infused through a social enterprise setup. And we also have leadership programs for CXO level people that want to learn leadership enhancements through social entrepreneurship and social enterprise as the background to that learning. So anyone across any kind of work, domain, vertical that they belong to can reach out to Pollinate, and we will definitely be very, very happy to involve them in a way that will be both meaningful for them and for us.
I'm going to share your contact information as well, because I think that people will get in contact with you directly, and they will also get in contact with Pollinate Group. I feel one of the big challenges that we foresee is empathy, widening empathy, having compassion for more people. And stepping, we talk about this a lot, stepping from the individual ego to the community and or planet requires that sort of human-centric to planet-centric, and these are steps that we take. And I think with one of the examples that you gave was that we put everything in multiple languages. Can you just expand on that a little bit? Because of course, those that may not be familiar with India has many languages, many cultures, many ways of doing things, and of course that they can be barriers. So when we say we invite everybody to the table, how are we doing the work behind the invitation?
Brilliant question. Thank you so much for asking that. One thing that the pandemic taught us was the fact that we need to learn to be engaged with our women entrepreneurs remotely and virtually. And that told us that we need to have content which is more digital, consumable, that can be shared across the community people. And that's how we, in the last 3 months, put together our own learning management system. And this system is going to be having a lot of learning content, which we are very proud to say is going to be created by the Suryamukhi for the Suryamukhi.
Oh, beautiful.
Which means one of her own will be speaking and talking about the product and demonstrating the product, which will go as learning content to another community woman that we will talk to. It is going to be so beautiful. If it were to be done by anyone else, there was always this thought to say, can I do that? But if she sees one of her own do that, it's going to be able to, bring out that ability in her to say, if she can, I can. And with that comes the ability to have content in multiple languages, because we are present in multiple locations, and the fact that we will be able to bring out these content from our own Suryamukhis is going to be something that we believe is going to be transformational. And it's also going to be creating a lot of less carbon footprint. We won't have our own folks traveling in and out of communities delivering these content. With this, I think we're also inching closer towards a better planet for ourselves in our own business model, beyond the products which we sell. And that's something that will be very useful both for scaling, and including the 10,000 women that we're going to be able to work with in the next few years, and be in an ability to quickly get those multiple language content. The moment we have a handful of women that we start working in a new location, create content by them, and then plug that into the learning management system.
I think that empathy goes even wider than that. And I think we across the world, I know this is London Climate Action Week, but by no means is the impact that we have only London focused. And I think this is where sometimes a global city like London can actually really learn and engage with many different rural environments to sort of increase our own empathy. And what we're learning from your example is that, with many cultures and many traditions across the world, many indigenous groups, many rural environments that have knowledge and their own truth. Something that makes it so beautiful is when we can understand what their methodologies are rather than going in and telling them what to do. And so, some other work that we've done through community architecture has been, how do you introduce an architect into the environment where it's not the sort of more control focused, resource depleting, mechanism to go in and tell people that this is the way to do things, otherwise you're not doing it right. But how do we approach the local truths?
Yeah. Touching upon that empathy point, even after we bring these women into our fold, she doesn't get the support, the empathy and the support that she needs from her family is not there, because some feel that she is growing wings and she should not be. And the other is, when the men folk start seeing money in her hand, they want to do more so that they can snatch the money from her hand. So it taught us a lesson to say, involving the family, embracing all of them as involved participants in this, creating that empathetic atmosphere for her within the family, while we go and recruit and talk about our program to these women, proved to be a little successful. Then the men folk understood that she is trying to do this to bring additional income into the family, and that will help resource other needs in the family. And when he sees that there is a huge organization behind her, he's also careful not to ask for that money from her. So I think in that sense, the brilliant point that you brought about on empathy and support required for her to be able to take on this journey is critical. But the beautiful point that you brought about, creating such communities and providing, better living conditions for these communities as a part of how these cities transform, and people coming out of these communities and joining the regular economy as empowered people, is transformational in making lesser and lesser community members like that. But what breaks my heart is the fact that there are 25, 30 people coming in every minute. So this problem is growing by the minute. And, wonderful work done by folks like you, creating awareness, creating a whole lot of voice and noise around this is so important. And, I also want to point out that, look at this. These are women with no opportunities, and out there they are creating a greener planet by reducing the carbon footprint for us. And that's so wonderful. With very little in their hands, they are giving something beautiful back to us, a greener planet. And I think that in itself is such a wonderful outcome of what we are all trying to do.
I think, before I move on to another question that's popping up is, we want to be able to support. But often when somebody is doing something disruptive in an environment where things have been stable, steady, normal, whatever that is, we look at this opportunity as a means to sort of like almost judge ourselves. You know, like, am I doing the right kind of entrepreneurial work? Like, somebody is earning more than me. How can we sort of sometimes allow, like, if I am the breadwinner, and you know, there's a huge sort of paternal instinct in me, or a patriarchal society around me, let's say, how do I support these women as a man?
Yeah. Tia, this is such a wonderful question again. What the pandemic has done right now is to put all the menfolk out of job. These are typical construction workers, manufacturing daily labor workers who have all lost their jobs because the construction workers stopped. The factories have shut down. They're slowly reopening for sure, but it's not in the massive scale that it used to be earlier. And about 1/10 to 1/15 of the people are going back to work, and they're all socially distancing apart. Also, because the manufacturing outfits do not have enough orders to fulfill, which is why they can't employ all of them back. Now, this puts the women in the front to say, hey, if you are able to sell and bring in some income into the family, I think men folk are seeing this as a transformation to say, I will wait until my wages come back. But at this point in time, if she is the one that can go out and sell and bring in this income and become a successful entrepreneur, I'm all out to support. I think that is something that we want to work on immediately and sensitize the families to get more women to join. Earlier, if they were saying, no, I won't let her do this, she's not required to, she's the fundamental caregiver in the family, my parents have to be taken care of, my kids have to be taken care of, vis-a-vis that, to say, yes, I'm at home, I'll be with the parent or I'll be with the child, but if you have to go out and sell, let's just make that happen. And that's such a wonderful question you asked. And that's the kind of reason why we are stretching ourselves to go after 10,000 women in the next 5 years, because we do believe that if we empower them, they're going to be more supported by their families.
We had a really interesting question that came in from Pavijit as well, which is, let's say you want to start a career in social work, or you want to empower communities. How do you start from scratch? Are there legalities that you need to be aware of, or financials that one should be careful to introduce?
Wonderful. Absolutely. In India, I think we have all it takes to start a social enterprise. It's a bit of a tough journey before you break even and so on. But I think if we all collectively start, managing our resources and leveraging each other's strengths, there is a lot of collective success that one can see. From that question, it's not at all difficult. It's not different from starting a for-profit enterprise to a social enterprise, except that you need to have a whole lot of committed people who see the vision that you want to see. This whole premise sits on the fact that it's so people-driven, right? If I have a team of people working in HR and finance, they can go and work anywhere else for that function. That's got nothing to do with the problems we are trying to solve. But the fact that they've got their head and heart into this business, into this company, into this vision and mission makes a big difference. So my only recommendation is starting a company is not very difficult, but finding the right people to work with you in your organization who see the same vision that you're seeing, who want to commit themselves to make that change is the most important thing.
I'm also going to add, as an entrepreneur myself, that having Replenish Earth as a purpose is something quite, it's taken a while to get to that place where I can define what that means. And sometimes we hold something really dearly as a stake in the ground, and you're sort of like a beacon of light on the sand at night, right? Like along the seashore, and you're like, is anybody there? And you ask that question, is anybody there? And I think the call to action must be made, right? The call to invitation must be made. And in that call to invite people to join your purpose or your cause or your activity, whatever that is in itself a creative act. And by design, when we invite people to our space to join our purpose and to design that vision, there comes a point where it's not just your vision anymore. And that vision expands to their vision as well. and you get to see things through their eyes that you didn't see yourself, and that then expands. But that, for me, that doesn't really happen when you have a hierarchical military, decision making protocol. And it really begins for us in the team at Replenish Earth, where everybody is taking the stake forward together, rather than one person doing it and everybody sort of following. And of course, that sort of transition does happen as people take more permission to do that for themselves and take initiative in the direction that they want to create. You can't force anybody to do that. For me, that's a job, right? Like, a job is a 9-to-5 existence doing some automated tasks that a machine can do, that you don't need to, because you're not being creative enough to go beyond the 9-to-5 existence of what a robot can obviously take your job away from. But if you really want to be an entrepreneur in the future, but also an entrepreneur, we're all entrepreneurs in residence these days, because we're in our organizations trying to find different ways of generating, right? And I really do feel that when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's not about charity anymore, which has its roots in the church for punishment for something that you did wrong in the community. Go and do some charity work, right? What does that mean, to go and do something for free? And I feel this idea that women have been doing this charity work or social work in the communities, living out and working and doing the chef. Like, if you had to pay a woman to be a chef, a cleaner, the teacher of the house, the general badass driver that runs around, you won't be able to afford one. So it's unfortunate that we see the role of a woman any less than we can in the future of the woman that can be the entrepreneur, the breadwinner, all of the other things that she can draw attention to in a community. But it's about inviting women to have that space. And I sort of like veered off into multiple directions there. But one of the things that I suppose I really wanted to bring bring our conversation back to is that there is such a big role that we as a community, as a global community, can help you with, whether it is, you're working in rural environments or you're not. How can we encourage and help you transform the work that you're doing, scaling it up to 10,000 women, 20,000 women, 30,000 women? What does that look like, and how can we meet you there?
Yeah. Absolutely. So the wonderful points. In fact, just one point I want to address on what you spoke about, the fact that women have to be cleaners or social workers and whatnot. I get asked this question after so many years of working. Oh, yeah, so this is the next transition, getting into social space. It just gets me livid. I said, this is not something that you do after you've done everything out there in the corporate world. This is a million times bigger problem that we're all trying to solve, and let's jolly well take this seriously. I keep telling myself, if I'd gotten to understand this earlier, I would have probably jumped in here earlier. But I've learned all of what needs to be done in the business world and want to bring that learning into this sector to solve much, much bigger problems. Right? Thank you. And it really gets my goat to say this is social work. It's not. It's serious problem solving. It's very serious problem solving. And the more that want to join and make a difference here, I can guarantee that when you put your head on the pillow, you'll be so much more satisfied than having, created a Wall Street improvement of some organization's stock. I can guarantee you that. So. Coming to the second part of your question, which is so important, I think at multiple levels, the organization that like ours that wants to grow and scale, we need to keep a very sharp, view on our costs and bring in those efficiencies. A great way to yet scale is looking at organizations that have similar vision, mission, and people working on different vision, but in the same communities, where we can definitely collaborate and, kind of manage our resources so much more better and cross leverage our energies and resources. If there are organizations, A, working on women empowerment, B, working on, other initiatives in these communities, with the last mile marginalized communities, be it sanitation or be it education or be it healthcare. If they're all going to these communities and we are going to these communities with a different purpose, definitely we can cross collaborate. I just have this beautiful line about our business model, right? We are talking about women empowerment, and how do we do the women empowerment? Because we are creating women entrepreneurs. So that's the second impact thing. If anyone is talking about women entrepreneurs, organizations focused on that, we'd love to work with them. And how are they becoming entrepreneurs? By distributing clean energy products. So anyone focused on clean energy, distribution to last mile, those are organizations that can work with us. And when they distribute all of this, what happens? We provide them with much better living conditions, and their livelihoods improve. Any organization working on improving living conditions in these communities, we'd like to partner with them. And all of this helps us create a cleaner planet and helps this woman pull herself out of poverty. So any organization that is working on any of these initiatives will be very happy to, collaborate and make sure that we exchange our learnings, and we are able to expand and scale much, much more rapidly than we can do by ourselves as an independent entity.
I realized I was on mute. Sorry. I think for us, it's about understanding and appreciating the work that you're doing. So thank you very much for sharing the work. We've got time for some questions, so I've just messaged the audience to see if they have any questions for you as well. I feel that right now in the greater scheme of COVID and how things are shifting and changing so quickly, the evolution that we're seeing in our mindset, right, from the entrepreneur in residence, the entrepreneur at home, is sort of really connecting across barriers that we only thought were present that are not present anymore. Can you tell us about what some of those challenges are for you? And maybe there's somebody in the audience or somebody that's listening that can really sort of double down on some very specific challenges that you're experiencing.
Yeah. Like I said, the first challenge is when people ask, is this a social service? So that really gets my code. That's one thing. I also want to talk about how we transitioned to this model, right? That earlier we were distributing these products through men who were our sales agents who would go and sell it into the communities, right? So we said then they were selling, it was the women in these communities that were saving up the money and buying these products. And we said, why don't we not make these women as our sales agents within the communities? In any case, they're only women who are buying, and it's easy for her to interact with them and communicate with them and make sure that they are able to successfully become an entrepreneur there. But while we thought it was going to be easy, that was one of our biggest challenges, transitioning from a model of having sales agents selling into those communities to identifying that woman with potential whom we start working with and invest for 8, 12 weeks. And since her life is so fragile, a small illness in the family of her kid will throw her off balance. If there is an elderly person that has fallen sick, she's the one that has to travel back to the village and be the caregiver for that. If there is a wedding in the family, she's the one that will drop everything and go and help the family to take care of the wedding workload and so on. With so much of fragility around her life, the biggest challenge is for us to keep her focused. It's very different from any other journey that any one of us have taken, where we know that when we do this, this is where we will achieve, and we will have that singularity of focus. But for her, she's first of all not used to anything because nobody takes her seriously. She can be tossed around, and she does get tossed around. So it's our big problem has been how to keep her on track. So we've now started asking her this question: when you want to become an entrepreneur, what is it that you want to achieve? And keep showing her that goalpost, right? If this is what you want to achieve, if this is your current roadblock that you're seeing, see how quickly you can manage that and come back, so that you don't lose her and lose her focus. And even when we go through our training, her mental space is so different from someone that is coming and sitting for an entrepreneurial class in a classroom or in a college, right? So she must have had a bad, evening with her drunken husband. She must have had no food for her children the previous day. Her mental space is something which is so difficult for us to get her to focus. So we constantly look at how the incremental income that she keeps getting from here is solving some of those problems of food and better hygiene products and better health products for her family, and show that as value, because of which she needs to stay continued in this journey. We've still not fully cracked it. We want to go and influence many more women, and it's not one kind of cookie cutter model that we can use in different communities and different locations that we go. They are so different, and their problems are so different. Their lives are so different, their journeys are so different, and that's one big challenge that we are constantly polishing and trying to see how we can get over.
It's so moving, what you're saying. I cannot imagine what it's like to, be in a situation where my work depends on my children, my family, and everybody else being safe, fed, looked after, in a trusted environment. And I really feel for anyone who's going through that right now. I also feel that where can we as a global community of minds and capabilities really help somebody so locally, almost as if they're sight, right? Like that, how can you go beyond that when your issues are so, so focal to survival, right? Like this mindset and the experience and the situation of living in poverty is what people call a wicked problem. Multi-generational, wicked, multi-discipline solutions are required for those wicked problems.
It is. Absolutely it is. When we go to a community, Tia, we actually identify 4 to 5 women from there, because we know we need to bring in a pool. And after careful psychometric examination of her capabilities, in spite of all the limitations she has, we start interacting and working and investing in one. And one small change in her life, and we lose her. And so for me to go and look for 10,000 women, I have to really work with at least 50, 60,000 women. And when we say she's gone off, we don't lose connect with her. We continue to engage with her. We make sure that one day she will come back. So there are field mobilizers that work with these women on a continuous basis to keep giving them the motivation, to keep giving them the confidence to bring them back to do what they want to do, but they still believe that they can't do. And so I think in a way, we are continuously seeding those thoughts in their minds and showing that other women are seeing and tasting and sensing success. And that becomes a motivator for her to be able to also say, yes, I can also do it. It's not easy. It's not, there is no singular solution, like I mentioned, but it's a constant, trial and error way that we keep working on different types of women, different things work for them. And we are learning.
Yeah, totally. I think, when it comes to this journey that we're on, that you're on, of being able to meet people where they are, it is understanding what that journey really is empathetically, but also in understanding the emotions that a person feels as they explore and taste even that freedom, even if it is the economic freedom or the energy freedom. So much of our lives is attached to energy and access to energy. And if we don't have that, and as Peter said in one of our talks earlier, and we're also going to have Mariam next, if that energy is not available, so many of the actions that we have in our societies today are linked to access to energy and affordable energy, reliable energy, wherein, places in Nigeria, people asking, just let me know the couple of hours in the week, at least the couple of hours when the energy is available. I mean, can you imagine asking that question? I remember when some places around the world where the lights just go off and you're like, the electricity's gone. And it's sort of like a giggle, and then everyone carries on talking in the dark, whatever. But, to have that level of, access to energy, right? To do the, doing your studies in the night, to, cooking in your kitchen, to all the different activities like charging up your phone. I mean, with with an electric car, I have to think about my car as a phone these days. I have to think about, oh my God, I've got this much electricity left. Imagine having the entirety of your life almost on that shoestring, kind of like, am I going to run out? And it's that sort of, am I going to be depleted anytime soon? And that kind of level of security and support is so important. Imagine if as a child I was growing up and, I didn't have food. Like, imagine if I had to go to school to have a meal, which is the case for many children around the world as they're in inner city environments and situations where there isn't a decent meal at home. Their meal is at school. And today, when there are increased lockdown enforcements across the world, we're seeing and experiencing what that situation at home can really look like. So I can only imagine that during the pandemic, you've had to level up the efforts and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another, heartbreaking point, Tia. These kids who are off school now because of lack of wages in the home might be pushed to doing odd jobs. In India, these children can be washing cars, they can be giving newspapers, they can be giving milk bottles around the place. And once that kid starts sensing money, it's so difficult to bring them back to school. And that's another heartbreaking reality of what we see here. And which is why if the mother has a source of income, then she's less likely to send the kids to do those odd jobs and bring those extra income into the family. And while they're all having access to some kind of online education, one family phone, it is still not enough. I mean, if there are 3 children and there is one smartphone, it's still not enough. And still the child might be whiling away time and then might be forced to do some odd jobs to bring in money. And hence, working with organizations that are into education as their focus and want to go to these last mile, we'll be very happy to engage with them and go together and give empowerment to the woman and keep the child engaged on education and so on. And so my ask is anyone that's in any of these areas of focus in last mile and wants to work with us to enable a Suryamukhi, a woman entrepreneur, and wants to support and take ownership of 1,000 women out of the 10,000 women that we want to work with, I'll be very happy to work with them and make that a possibility for them and show them 1,000 women that can be done basis their interest of doing so. Very, very open to all of those. Yeah.
Thank you, Sujatha. Thank you so much for sharing the story of Pollinate, and thank you so much for diving into some of the questions that we've got as an audience globally on how can we help support women across the world, especially in rural environments where these are the challenges that they're experiencing on a daily basis. And of course, Sujatha has shared her ask, and I very much hope that our community can help. We've, got the details of Sujatha on, I'll put it on the screen again, just in case anybody wants to be in touch with you. Sujatha, any final words to our audience?
Well, thank you so much, Tia. The kind of work you're doing is exemplary, and clean energy is such a dear, concept in my mind, and I've always followed it from being a little child, and so much of power to you to take this forward and create a much better world for all of us and the next many generations. Exemplary work. More power to you, lady. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm glad I was able to speak about what we do in a forum that you created so beautifully for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujatha. I just wanted to say that for me, it's transformation together. I don't want to be a lonely person anywhere. So for me, it's about having community and being able to share what we're doing together as a form of transformation that helps us just as much as it really aids others with the resources that we can share with them. So it really is that piece of the puzzle is to collaborate and grow our capabilities beyond what any one of us can do to what all of us can do together. So Sujatha, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just going to welcome everybody to the kind of work that we've been doing so far this London Climate Action Week, and share with you that replenishing the earth starts with the smallest of actions. Sometimes we think of, changing climates and, global warming being such a massive issue. And I think we often forget that small acts make big differences. And these small acts can be purpose-driven, something that you are really creative about, what you want to introduce to the world, something that you're exploring, that you want to reach out to organizations like Pollinate, that can really aid the last mile, as Sujatha was talking about. So you can become a replenisher too. This entire week we've had a number of different events that have been hosted, a number of different challenges that have been shared, and every single day we've been sharing to encourage everybody for driving that momentum to climate action. Today's theme and the last day of our challenge, Rise to Replenish, is be imaginative. Today, I pledge to rethink and be imaginative with, for example, my kitchen waste, right? Before sending it to a landfill, I can collect it, compost it, and create something out of that. And I think that, diverting things to landfill and being imaginative in the sorts of climate action and solutions that we can create is a positive for you and for all of the rest of us. So please join and engage with us on our social media channels. Subscribe to our YouTube. We've got another 2 lives that are coming up. We've also got potential for you joining our VIP Eco Party. It's going to be really, really fun. And to have access to our book, which is on Amazon, one-to-one coaching sessions with me, to be featured on our social media, and much, much, much more. So thank you very much, and see you at the next